that
Are
is...
you sure you just don't want to go through and do all of human nature? Oh, that's fine. Just
Pardon?
gonna say if you just want to finish with the stuff we have for human nature today and then move on to one division rather than splitting out halfway through.
Now we'll split up. This chapter is called Everything Changes, and this is kind of where my notes get a tiny bit more scarce. Um,
Oh.
which isn't good because I found out that Josh hasn't taken any notes, so we just have my notes to go off of.
It's
Ideally,
fine. We're getting to the point where I'm a bit more familiar with the book now.
right. Ideally, we'd both have notes. Ah well.
And Chris, don't leave Chris out of this.
If you say stuff like that, Chris will just leave, and we don't want that.
Yeah, no, that's true. We need him.
Yeah, Chris is used to a certain level of commitment that I can expect more of from Josh. But Benny and Alexander escape from the Orbitides. I haven't written down how, but they've escaped.
I don't think it actually mentions.
I'm sure it does. But yeah, Benny and Orbitide have metal plates um, attached to their backs, which you can see in the illustration if you're watching the illustrations. Now, we go back to the OTC, and Tim is accidentally in the line of fire. Tim just arrives at the OTC while a machine gun is going off and is in the line of fire. And, of course, he doesn't get shot, luckily. At least it
Wouldn't have
doesn't
mattered if he
seem...
did.
Pardon?
Wouldn't have mattered if he did.
No, I suppose not. But, well, I mean, it might have. Nah, probably not, actually. But, Rocastle, who's... Pardon?
Is this going to turn into a game of alive Tim, not alive Tim? Just on and off?
We'll see. Rocastle is not very happy. Rocastle is leading the OTC and calls Tim to his office, where Tim knocks Rocastle out.
Yeah. After seeing how he dies, which is...
Oh yeah. He says that yeah, he says that he'll die in like 10 years from lung cancer or something like that.
Also, would just like to mention here, I think it was the bursar was named Stephen Moffat.
No, I think he's just called Mr. Moffat. I don't think at any point he's called Stephen. But
okay.
But of course, at this time, I think Stephen Moffat had written one of these books already. So maybe. Of course, Stephen Moffat was writing Doctor Who around this time. He'd later become showrunner, of course. Hodges and some soldiers arrive at the time barrier. There's a lot of points I've just written. Blank arrives at the time barrier. I haven't written down why. Torrance dies. Torrance, being one of the soldiers, I believe, dies at the barrier after seeing a possible future. Tim arrives at the barrier. Again, another one of the notes where it's just something arrives at the barrier. Benny and Alexander run into Timothy and the pod in the woods. Again, as I said earlier, this is just a bit where Tim is kind of teleporting or something, because Tim is just arriving everywhere.
Yeah, he's just everywhere.
Hoff, one of the Arbitides, thinks the time barrier is acting strangely.
Oh wait, although for a moment it almost seems as if there's multiple of him.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Why do we let this guy join in?
Because it's slightly more entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Anyway, Benny and Alexander run into Timothy and the pod in the woods. The time barrier is acting strangely. The Orbitides detect something, an emission given off by the pod, and they give chase towards the pod. Benny and Alexander are freed from their restraints by the local carpenter, I think? The local metal worker?
Yeah, I think it was a carpenter.
No, it's a metal worker, because it talks about hitting metal on an anvil. And
Okay.
last I checked, carpenters work with wood.
Oh, this was the 1910s.
It was. Well, the 1910s had metal. Josh.
Yeah.
It's past the Iron Age, so they have metal.
Yeah.
Let's see here. John retrieves the Doctor's umbrella from the attic, because some of the Doctor's possessions are just in the attic, as opposed to in the TARDIS, which would make more sense. But oh well. And at this point, John is very unsure of everything that's going on. Joan asks him whether he was even sure of asking Joan to marry him, and he confirms that he is very sure that he wants Joan to marry him. Then a train engine explodes from across town.
Wow. Just out of nowhere.
Yeah. I believe it hit the time barrier and just kind of exploded, which makes sense. Of course, the train line goes through the town. Mr. Moffat thinks Dr. Smith is bad at being Scottish. He thinks the accent is a bit hit or miss. He tells Rocastle. Then Benny and Alexander enlist Rocastle's help to find a red pottery sphere, and an assembly is called of all the college students. And that's where the chapter ends. Of course, the red pottery sphere being the pod. But of course, they can't just tell Rocastle that they're looking for Time Lord biodata.
I mean, they could. He wouldn't understand, but...
Well, yes, and he
he'd
probably wouldn't have helped. Pardon?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he wouldn't have helped.
He'd probably get him thrown into some sort of mental hospital.
Indeed. So, yeah, that's the end of that. Chris, you've been awfully quiet besides your jokes. What did you think?
Not bad. So the bit where Smith and Tim go to the barrier, isn't that the bit where they're shown visions of what will happen if they give up the pod? Or is
No,
that...
no.
Yeah.
So they go to the barrier separately, I think. So I said earlier that John went to the barrier. I said before that Tim went to the barrier. They didn't go together. That happens much later on in the story.
Okay, it does happen. Just okay, cool.
Yep. Thanks for the spoiler.
Whoops.
Oh
Anyway,
well.
Chris, rating.
Yeah, I'll stick with my average of 6.
Right.
Just looking down Chris's list of his ratings. Oh, Chris, you have 3 things that are on a 6.
And they are. So that's gonna be the 5,
dear.
a 7, and a
4.
something else. Yeah.
So basically, I think we found out that Chris is not enjoying himself.
I don't know. 6 is above average.
Yeah.
Only just.
Well, no, actually,
Anyway.
if you're not counting 0 as a possibility, it is
No, I am.
right. Fair enough.
You can give it a 0 if you want.
I'm not going to give it a 0. Josh, what do you think?
I don't think we ever have anything that goes to a 0. Anyway,
Oh, just you wait. We have
yeah,
to.
no,
We have to watch Fear Her at some point.
I mean, I wouldn't even put that at 0. I put it. We'll get there when we get there. Anyway, now actually, that 4th Doctor episode, that might be a 0. Anyway, I'm spiraling. Anyway, yeah, just another solid chapter. Bit more plot, bit of excitement. Actually, not really excitement, is it? Bit of action. Yeah, 7.
Right. I kind of like how it expands on Tim's like being able to tell how people die. Besides that, not all that much happens really. Except for a tiny bit of John and Joan snogging.
Kissing.
Yeah.
Which is basically what this book has turned into.
Oh god, it's turned into a love novel. Right.
Oh no, it's turned into Human Nature / Family of Blood.
I mean, I think there's something to be said for David Tennant falling in love and Sylvester McCoy falling in love. You know, I think there's a bit of a difference there. Sylvester
You
McCoy.
saying that Sylvester McCoy shouldn't be as loved as David Tennant?
No, I'm not saying that at all. Of course, Seven is my favourite Doctor. I'm just saying it's a bit weirder seeing an older man fall in love.
I mean, he wasn't actually that much older.
Really?
Yeah, no, he wasn't. I'm pretty sure.
Well, keeping in mind this is very kind of later game, Seventh Doctor. This is 1995.
Yeah, no, true.
True. Yeah. So he was a bit older at this point. You imagine.
Well, actually, technically, in universe, he was younger.
Clarify?
Well, the 7th Doctor is younger than the 10th Doctor, but don't worry.
Oh, yes, correct.
But yeah, no. Anyway, your rating?
7. 7
Yeah,
is...
you know how I was knocking on Chris for
Yeah,
was
7 is
picking
probably
6?
my average.
Yeah, well, to be fair, you've got a lot more other numbers than Chris has, but still 7 is your average.
Alright. Well, the mode, I'd imagine.
Just wait till you find the standard deviation.
Oh, God. Right. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's do it.
The next episode is an actual episode this time, as most people would define it. Of course, I define episodes differently.
Way air punches.
What?
Don't worry.
Right, I haven't actually got any notes for this episode. I hope Josh has.
It's fine. I can remember it.
Oh, can you do the rundown then?
Yeah, that's fine. It won't be as in depth as your rundowns, but I can still give a rundown.
Right.
This is kind of recent media, so I should imagine a lot of people have probably seen it.
Yeah.